Today we have the absolute privilege of hearing from a couple of guys. I'm here, of course, but I'm not speaking today. We have Steve Andrews, who's our founding pastor, many of you know, which is awesome. Look at that. He gets a spontaneous round of applause. You're the only service that clapped for him. I'm sure he's going to favor you guys. And then also, Darren Weiss is our church planter. Give these guys a huge round of applause as they're coming out. Yeah. As these guys are getting situated, let me tell you real quick. Many of you if you've been around Kensington for a little while, church planting is something that we do. We actually are starting new campuses that are a part of Kensington, but we also are in the business of launching and helping support other independent people who are just planting new churches. So we've partnered with Paradox Church in Warren with Craig McGlasson, Vox Church in Chesterfield with Matt Woodburn, Phil Whetstone in Colonial Woods up north, and then also Mick Veach over here in Stony Creek Community Church. We've all gotten together and we've said, okay, we're going to give this guy our support, our resource. We believe in Darren. Darren comes along. And so he's been here a few times, and today he's been giving a fantastic message.
Really has been great.
Really great. And so I just want to let you know, Steve's going to tell you how much he loves him. But I want to...
You love me enough to carry my apple home?
Really?
Yeah, thanks, bud.
And I'll let you guys take it from there while I go throw Steve's apple away. Seriously, let's go.
Hey, who loves Chris Zarbaugh out there? Oh, man. You know, God's promise to me years ago was great people are waiting to help me. That was from, one of my life themes, and Zarb is certainly one of those people. And you've become, this year, one of those people. Really, really grateful for that. And just so you know, in our passion to launch new churches, to be a church planter, you have to be insane.
Look.
I mean, really.
Look at them.
So, because it's crazy. I mean, it's risky. You're trying to get people connected. It's, the pay is lousy. The hours are long. People are difficult. It's just awesome. So here you are, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You're launching this church.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of you. This will be somewhere in the low 40s of churches that we've helped start.
Yeah.
In the last 20 years or so.
That's awesome.
That's a cool one.
Yeah, it's been my dream since really the Lord saved me to help people. That's really the day that the Lord saved me. I promised Him that I'd give every day the rest of my life to Him and helping people experience the same forgiveness of sin and reconciliation to Him. And in that promise, I have absolutely failed miserably since that day. But it really is part of what inspires me to get back up that next day. It's, evangelism is in me. I just love sharing the gospel with people who don't know it or, are struggling through it and leading them to the Lord. And church planting is the best possible method under heaven in reaching people who are far from God. And so, although I've worked at Grace Centers of Hope for the last several years. I was a chief
familiar with Grace Centers of Hope? It used to be the Pontiac Rescue Mission.
Great,
credible ministry. Yeah.
And just felt God. My wife and I felt God calling us to a new season in being effective in reaching people. And so that's really what we're in this. We're looking towards a fall launch. We've been gathering people together over the last several months. Finally came up with a name. Our name is Hope City.
Yeah.
And Hope City Church.
Come on. Hope City. No, seriously, of all the churches we started, that is my favorite name. Yeah. I love it. I absolutely love that name.
It really speaks to our vision. I actually posted on my blog a couple weeks ago that this is harder than naming my child because it really has been. I've gone full circle, came right back to the vision and said, wait. What the vision is that we embody, as a community, we embody the gospel in such a way that we give hope to people about this day to come of a city of the kingdom coming down here to earth. And a day when no more suffering, no more pain, no more hurt, everything that we could ever think is horrible right now in our life is suddenly untrue. And that day is when the kingdom comes to earth. And so we want to be a community of people that truly living the gospel, we actually begin to manifest little pieces of that kingdom, just like you guys are in terms of the kingdom, going through this message of the kingdom come. That's what Hope City is. That's what we want to be, is bringing hope to the city that's to come. So
I love it.
Yeah.
And so we're longing for people. We're hoping for 20 people to sign up after this service. Not to say, I'm going with you, Darren, but to say, I'd really like to know more. I'd like to connect. They got a table out there. You can't miss it because one of the two guys that's operating the table for him is 6'7". Yeah. So it's pretty obvious where to go, kind of right in the middle.
There's my website, wearehopecity.com. That'll take you right to my blog, and that's my email up there, Darren at wearehopecity.com. If you want to find out more information that way too, but we'd love for you to sign up, and we can be in contact with you. I tell you, our target really is Macomb Township,
Yep.
but we're looking for where exactly we're going to launch. But fall is the time, and up until then, we're having some informational meetings and some gatherings together to develop the ministries. And so we'd love for you to plug in if you feel like God's leading you that way. Even if it's just for a season, that you say, hey, we're going to jump on board and get in and get this flight up in the air, and then go back to wherever it is that you want to be, whether it's here or what have you. But we know that God will call people for a season too.
He will, and I think some of you are going to, after you hear Darren, are going to want to be a part of this. The other thing I would say is just a reminder that we've got a lot of big goals at Kensington, launching 12 campuses, reaching 50,000 people in the Metro Detroit area. That includes we're launching Shelby this year, Josh Eisenhart, and in very close partnership with the Clinton campus. This is in the 40s now of churches that we've started. Over 30 of them are still live and thriving and reaching tens of thousands of people. And we're hoping to see at least 40 of those churches go on to reproduce other churches. Yes. So to have granddaughter and grandson churches along the way would be really cool. So be praying about that. So listen, this is what we're going to do. We're talking today about the kingdom come. We're talking about a lot about anxiety, how to overcome the anxiety and the worry that rocks us by seeking after God. And Darren's going to do the vast majority of this message. I'm up here as eye candy because, hey. So, but we're one of the really cool things that I've loved about this series is these video stories. And we've had them from different campuses. Well, today it's Amanda Bray from the Clinton Township campus telling her story. And the thing that's, to me, has been so awesome about it is normal, everyday people like you and me telling the story of how they're learning to trust God in their life. And this picks up where Amanda is talking about being married, having a significant period of infertility, wondering if they could trust God to even have children. We're going to pick up the story today just to begin this message with her beautiful son being born and kind of the journey of learning to trust God. So take a look at this.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
I delivered Jacob on December 20th, 2005, after a really rough pregnancy and an even tougher labor. He was there, and he was perfect, and he was beautiful, and we went home and kind of started our life as the three of us, a new little family. And then when my son Jacob was 2 or 3 years old, we found out he had a peanut allergy. He had ingested a peanut butter cereal, and he broke out in hives all down his neck and his face. And as my son starts school, I now have to put my trust in a whole lot of people I don't know. Teachers, coaches, the principal, his buddies' moms. And it's hard because I just am so fearful that they're not going to check the labels like I'm going to check. They're not going to check the food that he's going to eat. And so every meal, every birthday cake, every ice cream cone brings me fear. And this worry just started piling up. It just got to the point where it was like this sense of doom with him. And I just couldn't control my feelings to try to protect him, to try to be with him, be the only one that looked after him, because only I could look after him the way he should be looked after. And it got to the point where I struggled to even want to leave the house with him. It was like so all-consuming that I started having physical responses to anxiety, where my hands would swell, my feet would swell, my joints would ache, and I would just seek out seclusion, like want to be in my room and, just away, just sleep, just be away. What am I depressed about? This is crazy. I have a beautiful husband, I have 2 healthy kids, I have a job, I have a house, I have a car, what the heck would I be depressed about? And it just didn't get any better, Month goes by and I'm still getting worse and worse. And I just started praying and said, God, I'm done, man. I don't know what else I can do. I love my son. I know he's growing up, and I need to trust that other people are going to take care of him and that you're going to take care of him. It's still a struggle for me, these thoughts of doom and, that, something tragic is going to happen. And so in those moments, I just stop and, I stop, I crack open a Bible, I Google, verses about anxiety when I need them. I pray. My husband and I pray together every morning, and pray that it just goes away, that just takes it away. And of course takes the peanut allergy away too. So, that's what I've learned, is that I can't do it alone, that it's all right not to be the only one protecting my son, that somebody much stronger and greater is looking after him better than I can. And that if I stop and just listen, and his ways are so much better than mine, so.
I love that.
Yeah. Can you identify with that fear, with that anxiety that Amanda was feeling? I know that if you're here this morning and you have kids, I know you can. That line that she says that, having to trust in other people, that she knows best how to care for her kids, right? I mean, as parents, we all feel that way, right? And then the fear of handing that over to people.
It's funny, I have my granddaughter, she's 10 months old, and it's really funny. She started crawling the last few months, and all of a sudden, all the anxieties that I felt about my children started feeling about my granddaughter now.
Isn't that something? I used to think that when you became a Christian and that peace that came over you when you were forgiven, and like that was just going to last and all your worry and strife was gone. And that just isn't the case at all. In fact, we know as well as you do that every single one of us in here today have some real serious anxiety over some real serious things in your life. And we want to challenge you today. When you came in, you were given a card. And we're hoping that after watching Amanda's story and identifying with that, and as we go through the message, that you'll write down on this postcard what your greatest fears are, what your greatest anxieties are. Steve and I have been doing this all morning. We've got at least 60 or 70 of them that took a minute to write down.
The longer we talk, the more I put on my list.
Right. Yeah. And throughout the message later, we're gonna ask you to do something with that. But it's amazing the worry and anxiety that we can really live with in this world. And if there's anybody in this room that really has a reason to not be fearful and to not be anxious and not be worrying, it is me. And I'm going to tell you why. Most people are shocked by this, but by about the age of 17 years old, I was shooting heroin. And with within no time, I was completely strung out. My life had just completely turned towards despair in a way that I never dreamed of it. I just never envisioned myself being in this situation. I mean, there were nights where whether it was in abandoned buildings or in the cold, homeless, strung out, looking for my next fix, and just going, how in the world did I get here? This wasn't the way it was supposed to work out. I usually sum up the desperation that I was in. There were several times that I actually did attempt to commit suicide, but one particular morning I got up, I was on the couch, and I looked at my coffee table that I had at one of the fewer times that I actually had a place to live. And I looked over on the left side of my coffee table, and I had syringes and spoons and heroin. And then over on the right side of the coffee table, I had a pistol loaded in with bullets. And I remember just thinking to myself, which one do you want to use today? You know, you can shoot some more heroin, and the misery will be gone for a little while, and it's just going to extend it. You're just going to extend your misery longer. Or you can shoot yourself with that pistol and be out of your misery. And as I look back on that now, today, and as I have over the years, the thing that amazes me so much now, having been freed from that, is the fact that I look back and I think, gosh, I could never think of a third option at that point. I was so fixated, so engulfed and bound in this addiction, in this fixation to have heroin to live, that I couldn't ever come up with a third option. It would have been just to don't do either of them, man. How simple is that? You don't have to shoot either one of those. You could actually walk away from that. And amazingly, through the power of God, I was freed from that addiction. And you would think that having been through something like that now, knowing the Lord, that I would not worry about a lot of the things that are going on in my life, because I know He's that powerful. I know He loves me that much. I know He's able to take care of whatever scenario that I could possibly be myself in. But really, truthfully, all I've really done on a daily basis is take that worry and that fixation and exchanged it for another. Now I'm stressing out because I'm planting a church. I mean, I guess it's better, right? But it still really, truly brings up the same fear.
Well, thanks a lot, because it's brought all the anxieties that I had 23 years ago.
You back up.
They're all like, I'm sweating under my armpits. And,
I mean, seriously, in planting this church, I do absolutely believe that God called me to do this. And you know how it is, Steve. I mean, what starts running through my head is, what if I can't build a launch team? What if I can't raise enough money? What if nobody comes? What if I don't have a paycheck? What happens if I lose a paycheck? What if I don't have shelter for my kids? What if I end up living in a van down by the river? Right? I mean, isn't that what it starts to tell you? When you start to stress out over the job, you lose a job, all these other things, you begin to stress out, and you think that the worst is going to happen. What's wonderful is that Jesus has something to say about this. The Scripture has something to say about our anxiety and our worry. And so I want to read this passage to you. It's out of the Gospel of Matthew. Book of Matthew, chapter 6, in verse 25. It should be up on the screen there if you want to read along with us in the NIV. Jesus says this, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life. Just don't worry." So we can all go home now and just try harder, right? Just quit it. Stop it.
Just stop it.
You ever seen Bob Newhart's? I actually wanted to play that video, his little scene of just stop it. Anyway, you'll go check it out.
Yeah, that's
Google.
real helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, so
great.
Thankfully, Jesus doesn't leave us there. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow. Do you not labor or spin? Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you? Oh, you of little faith. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So Jesus is saying, don't worry. Certainly don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to have its own worries. Yeah. So don't be worried about that today. And he actually tells us why we shouldn't worry. But in order to really overcome the worry that you have in your life, whatever that is that you wrote down on that card, and for me, what I'm going through, and Steve, and all of us, the first thing is we have to understand first, what is anxiousness? I think that anxiety, I think of walking around on a daily basis with that Jaws bass line going on, that wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, it's like you're just waiting for that fin to pop up in Jaws to come after you, because you're just expecting something horrible to happen, expecting something bad to happen in your day or in your life. And the reason why is because anxiety is a fixation on a threat or a danger that is being presented into your life. And it affects you psychologically and physiologically. You saw Amanda, right? When she began to stress out, it wasn't just something that happened in her head. It literally began to affect her whole body. She began to swell up and all these different things. My wife has lupus. I ask the doctor all the time. So, well, what is it she can do or not do to make sure that it doesn't flare and things like that? They usually say, well, stress does it. Well, what does that mean? I mean, stress does it. I mean, life does it? Just living does it. I mean, because my life is stress, right? It's like I'm always presented with a danger. The problem is that anxiety and worry to some degree is a natural thing. You are supposed to worry about certain things, because when that worry comes on, when you're presented with that danger, adrenaline fires off, chemicals fire off your body, and you are getting ready for a drastic, dramatic situation that you're going to respond to with either fight or flight, right? So, I mean, you need this thing. The problem is that you and I were not created to have this anxiety all day, every day, right? We're not supposed to be having all of these employment dangers and threats and relationships and monetary, all these different things that we're struggling with that really constantly at different times throughout the day bringing us over and over to this fight or flight intensity with things. Because what it does is it literally starts to kill you. It literally starts to burn you from the inside out. Ulcers. It's what an ulcer is. You're burning yourself from stress. Hypertension, high blood pressure, all of these things that start to set in because you are always in this condition. And that's really what anxiety is. Jesus begins to sum it up there in 34. He says, don't worry about tomorrow. He's saying, why would you worry about, you can't add an hour onto your life, right? You can't do that. And what he's beginning to say is that the essence of anxiety is the desire to want to control those very things we cannot control. We cannot control them. I mean, adding an hour to how many people in here are doing something in their life to try to add time to their life, right? We all are. We're all trying to get in the place of God some way in order to be in control, because the kingdom of the world tells us that you need to be in control of every single area of your whole life.
I just want to say something. It just hit me this service. For the last 2 weeks, I've spent a ton of time worrying about Ukraine and Russia and our relationship. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Like, I'm listening to talk shows like I wonder how we should respond to this and that.
Yeah.
I mean, what is
my opinion? Do?
My opinion matters zero.
Yeah.
And yet here I am. I bet you I burned 10 hours thinking about it.
Isn't that something? And who knows what you burned inside, right?
Yeah.
Literally. And so Jesus, he's beginning to tell us that the point or the where your anxiety is coming from is this desire to want to control what you cannot control. And so it's always butting up against the potential of a situation rather than the actual, right? So Jesus is challenging us. He's going, you can't control that. In fact, who has actually been keeping you living until now? Since now you're stressing out, let's talk about it for a minute. I mean, now that you're worried about losing your job, now that you're worried about losing your life, have you been keeping yourself alive all this time? Were you the one that got you the job? Jesus is saying, no, I have been. And so actually, watch this. Anxiety is an illusion. I should say this. Anxiety reveals the illusion that you thought you were in control in the first place. You never really were. And so when the doctor comes into the room with the bad news, right, or the boss or whatever that is, suddenly you worry, you get all this anxiousness because you are thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm about to be put into a position now where I have lost control. When Jesus is going, no, you're wrong. You never had control. See, you never had it. Our anxiety is coming from this illusion, right? Of the fact that we want to be in control and can't. Now, at the deepest level, it's always been like this. Always. This isn't a new thing. This isn't something that is in part of our modern age, like now because we have the stressors in our world that now we're dealing with stress. This has been from the beginning of time. That we didn't like the idea. Watch this. See, since creation, we have never liked the idea that we are fully dependent upon God. We don't like that idea. We dislike it, don't want to believe that we are totally being supported by God and that really He is fully in control. Because the world wants to tell us that we can be in control. In fact, later on, Jesus says, the pagans, the Gentiles, they're which are people that just are agnostic or they don't believe in God. It would be very similar today, the people who just don't believe in God. It makes perfect sense for them to be stressed out. Because if you don't believe in God, well, then that would mean it really is up to you. And that you are being thrown into a situation where you need to control, but you don't have the ability to, and now you're stressed out. So how do we actually begin to overcome that? If from creation, if we were from birth, not, desiring that God would be in control, and it's so difficult to be dependent on Him, and we want to be masters over our own life, and we've begun seeking all of these other things. I mean, what is it that you've been seeking over when you stress out? I mean, it can be any number of things. I mean, I've done them all virtually, and I know I'm not the only one. I mean, what are some of the things that you've chased after?
Everything. I wanted to do it all.
Yeah.
I wanted to be great.
Yeah.
I wanted to have impact. I wanted to be
Success.
successful. Wanted to have hair on top of my head. It's a lot of things.
Then you would have been successful.
But it's a drivenness to think that I've got to make my life work. I mean, I'm involved in it.
Yeah.
But as you were describing from the beginning, not wanting to be in control, I had Marguerite on Friday. We had our granddaughter on all day Friday, and she's 10 months old now. And every time I put her down and change her diaper, she gets mad. She doesn't want to be put in that position. Why? Because she's just like me or you. Like, don't stop me. Yeah, that's it. I mean, you nailed it.
And so really, we need to be brought up to that place of recognizing that we are not in control to overcome anxiety. It really is. To get rid of that illusion that you're really in control of this situation. It doesn't mean you're not responsible for certain things, but you are not in control. I can remember a time in my own life where I hit that brick wall. And when Amber and I, my wife and I, before we were married, she has lupus, and I can remember her giving me this book. And she, essentially was telling me, you should read this so that you know kind of what you're getting into. And I thought that was very respectable, and that was nice, but of course I was very religious at the time and was strong enough because I believed in God. And I would trust him, you know. And so I will read it, but I'm not going to trust in what doctors say. I'm going to trust in God. Well, that was very easy to live that way. And we got married and all that other stuff right up until the time that she was actually pregnant. And with our first child, our daughter Hayden, and the lupus began to flare. And I can remember months before that, a doctor, when we told him that we were going to get pregnant in spite of the risk of being pregnant with lupus, that I remember he looked right at me, looked right in my eyes, and he said, so when she gets sick, who are you going to pick? Are you going to pick your wife, or are you going to pick your child? And I just remember the anger that I had. That was the last time I saw that doctor. But a month into that pregnancy, when she was flaring, she couldn't take her medication, couldn't do anything, I could just hear that ringing in my head. Who are you going to pick? Who are you going to pick? What are you going to do? We had 8 more months to go, and it was already flaring. Her numbers were horrible.
Attacking her kidneys.
Attacking her kidneys.
Life-threatening.
Lupus. Yep, lupus is, for those of you who don't know, it's an autoimmune disorder where your immune system begins to believe that you are a virus, so to speak, and it begins to attack you. And so it usually takes sometimes it hits your skin, sometimes it goes to your joints, and most people have that. But in Amber's case, it's her kidneys, which is very common for lupus. Patient, and so the lupus, her immune system was essentially attacking her kidneys, and you couldn't take any medication in it to suppress her immune system. So here I am, a month in, and I can remember just laying on the couch one night and just coming to the end, just weeping to myself, because really until that time I was living under this illusion that, like, well, if something were to happen, like, I'd be able, I mean, look at what I've been through. Like, I've been through enough. I can handle this, right? I got this, and I just remember weeping that night and coming to the end of just realizing there's absolutely nothing that I can possibly do. And it was probably the closest I've ever heard God audibly speak into my life, in my ear, and just say to me, Darren, you are not in control. And then I heard him say, and that's a good thing. and at that moment I thought to myself, wait, hold on. What part of your life reflects somebody who does real well when they're in control of everything? I mean, when I was left to my own devices and my own life and it was all up to me, I knew exactly where my life went. And at that moment I began to think, God told me, you know what, I am in control, and it is a good thing. And I think that is really what freed me from that. It didn't mean that the worry didn't go away for the next 8 months. It didn't mean that it made her better. It didn't mean that it wasn't horrible. It was absolutely was by the end. Thankfully, she's healthy today. But the point is that in order for you and I, when you have that, whatever that is, you know what it is, or it's several things. In order for you to really overcome it, first of all, it's got to be day by day. You're not going to one time just have it freed. It's going to be a day-by-day process, and it's going to be coming up to that realization in those moments that God is in control, and it's a good thing that he is. It's good that you're not in control. And so how do you really do that, right? I mean, do you have to hit the brick wall like I did on that night? I mean, like every stressor, you imagine if every stressor in your life that you came up against, you had to weep all night and come to that conclusion, right? I mean, how do you really do it? Well, Jesus, he tells us how. It's really two things. It's really that in that moment of anxiousness, in this passage, he's really telling us two things. He says, first of all, you have to get your thinking straight. He's really telling us, get your mind right. Getting your mind right is telling you that, you know what? God is strong. God is powerful. And he's in control of all things. And the second thing is that he is compassionate, in more than you ever dare dream. And so the first thing is really coming to that place of recognizing in that moment when you're in bed or wherever it is at that night or in that moment, and your heart is speaking to you and is saying, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What happens when the last check comes? What happens when the severance is gone? What happens when the numbers start getting bad on the blood work? And all those things when you're, where are you going to live? What's it going to be like? What are the kids? What are you going to eat? What are you going to wear? All those stressors start coming into your life. Do you begin listening to that, or do you begin listening to God, who is in control and who is strong and powerful, who is saying, I can make good out of all things. Even the worst evil in this world I can use for your good. That it doesn't matter what you're going through, that I can use it. I can control everything. Is that what you're doing? That you know that you have somebody that's actually in control?
I was thinking about your life. I've had a chance to reflect on my life as I'm thinking about your life. Your life's a lot crazier than mine. Uh-oh. I've never had a heroin addiction. I known Jesus since I was small. I had the most hilarious, fun family to grow up in. It was just unbelievable. I had very little to worry about. And I can remember being 17 years old, captain of my high school football team. Outwardly, everything was going my way. And I was completely consumed with worry and anxiety all the time.
Isn't that something?
And it's this passage we're reading today. It's Matthew 6, where Jesus said, consider the birds of the air. Yeah. And I think that was I actually, for some of you that are young, that are anxiety driven, I actually, at 17, went home and over the course of 2 days memorized Matthew chapter 6. This passage was so moving to me because I was so tired of trying to carry the burden myself. Just thinking that it was on me. And the two phrases that hit me were the most. It was really out of a film I watched by Franco Zeffirelli called Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. Kind of a strange film, but it was a story of Francis of Assisi, and he kept saying to himself and other people, don't you know? Look at the birds. Your heavenly Father feeds them. Look at the flowers. Your heavenly Father clothes them. You can trust me. Jesus is like, we will take care of you. It doesn't matter what your life circumstance is. You always come back to that. And now you're planting a church. I have a granddaughter. We're right back at the same place again. Are we going to trust him that he really is, would you say, strong enough and compassionate enough to care for us? And
I think in that moment when that anxiety is coming, you've got to, like I said, get your thinking straight. Who's in control? You've never been in control, so let's just acknowledge that. But really, a lot of people stop there. They try to just repeat it over and over again, and so on and so forth. And you just try harder. You just try harder and harder and harder, and then you just get overwhelmed with all that, and then you get anxious about that. And it's not enough, because some of you in here right now, even in my own life, there's been times in my life where I thought, okay, well, he might be in control, but I'm not so sure that's a good thing. Because look at me. I can remember being in rehab.
Okay, freeze that thought. Rehab.
You've been to rehab, haven't you?
What is up? I mean, this is the craziest place at Kensington. So I got a former heroin addict, rehab, planting our next church. I just thought, God has a great sense of humor, doesn't he?
Yeah. He does.
I love it. And finally, someone more screwed up than Chris Harbaugh.
Hey.
So,
I do have to say that people have said to me, you must have as many stories as Chris.
No, that's impossible. No, that's impossible. But guys, watch you. But let me do this just before, because I want to hear this story. This is such an incredible, turning point in your life, and I think it's going to be a turning point for people here. Can we receive our offering at this time? For those of you visiting, you can relax. You don't have to worry about this moment. But if you'd love to give, we'd love to have you be a part of us and partner with us. And for those of you that are giving online electronically, or you came here today to prepare to give, what is giving but another way of saying, God, I'm surrendering my anxiety to you. I'm trusting you with my resources, because I recognize that all comes from you anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So the ushers are going to come by, because we're gonna wrap up the end of our service. We don't want that to in any way distract from that. So back to you.
Yeah.
You're in rehab.
I am in rehab, and not now. I mean, I'm
Because
currently
since
out
then-
of rehab, so
since-
let's just get that straight.
So since rehab, you went to seminary.
Yes.
You've led at Grace Centers of Hope.
Yep.
Get married. How many kids you have?
2.
2 kids.
Yep.
And now you're launching on what I think for me, launching a church 20 years ago was maybe the most stress-inducing
Yes.
thing I've ever done personally in my life.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
that. I
So
absolutely believe
here
that.
y'all are, but this is before all that
Yeah.
begins. You've been running. Never even
Ripping-
thought about God hardly. So here you are in rehab. Okay.
Right, exactly. And I just want to make sure that you tie this into your life, and what this means is that in that moment, right, of stress and anxiety and whatever that is, and being ready to give that over and hand that over to God, that you do have to tell yourself and get right with the fact that God is in control. But I recognize, and you probably do if you've tried that it isn't enough, because this particular time I was in rehab. And for those of you who have been in rehab before, you'll know you do group counseling and things like that. And for those of you that are going, oh, I've never been to rehab, you need rehab. All right, let's just get that straight. That's part of what we're doing here, really. This is rehab.
Yes, it is.
This is rehab. Let's keep it real. When I was in rehab, one of the first things I figured out, I thought, my whole family needs this rehab. That's what I thought. I didn't even get my sister in here and my brother. But you know, theirs wasn't drugs, but theirs
'Cause
was
we're
something
broken.
else. Yes,
Seriously,
we're
'cause we're
broken,
broken.
people. We are.
whole
And so
premise of
anyway, I'm
AA.
in the middle of about 20 people, because I was just coming in, and this counselor, he was very good. He said to me, he goes, so he kind of looked at me and said, what do you know about God? And I said, I don't know nothing about God. What are you talking about?
Huh.
And he just kind of sat there and looked, and I said, well, you know what, I take that back. I know this. I said, I know that if there is a God, he's not happy with me. I said, I know that much. I said, I know that if there's a God and he's holy and he's righteous and all that other stuff, he's looking down at me and he's ticked because I'm not even happy with my life. So how can he be? I said, so you know what? I choose to believe there's not a God, because if not, I'm filled with shame and guilt and the horror of my life. Because really, when I think back on that time, I saw God as somebody who, if I were to come up out of that rat hole, he was waiting to see which rat hole I was going to come up, and I was going to get whapped when he were to come up, when I was to come up. Because I saw him as to me, he was an angry judge. If there was one, because how could he let all these things happen in my life? Why did, he knows how horrible this is. He's watching me. He knows how hard I'm trying. He knows how many times I've tried to get clean. He knows all that. And so when you're in that moment, just having God be in control is not enough. That doesn't mean that you trust him with your life, because he might ask you to do some things that you don't want to do, right? I mean, what if he doesn't have your best intention, your best at the forefront of his decisions for you, right? And so Jesus, he doesn't leave it there. He doesn't just say, look at the birds of the air. He's going, the birds, they've never gone. Have you ever seen them go shopping? Of course not, right? God is providing for them. So God will provide for you. But he doesn't leave it there. He also says, look at the lilies of the field. Look at how arrayed. Look at the overabundance of what they have. And they're just here look at them. They're basically just going to grow and be burned out. But look at you. How much more does he love you? And it's the love of God that you have to embrace and see and seek in order to really overcome that anxiety. Because you may be saying, yeah, but if God really loved me, he'd do this. Or if God really loved me, he'd do that. How do I know I can really trust? Well, you know what? God did the ultimate. God did the ultimate thing. In fact, Jesus said it. He said, there is no greater love than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. And so God, through Jesus Christ dying on the tree of the cross, and him laying down his life voluntarily, having lived a perfect life, he proved his love. And more than the fact that he wasn't just mocked and spit upon and beaten and tortured and then ultimately crucified, even worse than that, at his worst possible moment, right? He had lived a perfect life, and at his worst possible moment, when he's hanging on the tree of the cross, and he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? At that moment, God wasn't there. He was separated from his Father in heaven in his worst moment, so that when we are in our worst moment, when we are so stressed out and we think that there's nothing can happen, that God is right there in the middle of it with us because of what Jesus did. So it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what situation we're in. We can trust that God does love us. He's not looking to whap us when we come out of the hole that we're in. He's saying, come to me. Come unto me, all you who are weary, stressed out, anxious, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and be in peace, right? Because Jesus did the ultimate thing. And so you have to take, before any change is really going to happen in your life, you have to have faith. You can go through all the motions. You can say all the things in your head. You can just repeat it over and over again, and you can try harder and harder and harder. But I can guarantee you, with the things that I've overcome, the behavior and addiction that I've been able to overcome, I can guarantee you this. Before any real behavior changes in your life, it's going to begin with faith. It's going to begin with believing that you can do it. Before you take a journey anywhere, you've got to take a 12-inch journey. It's got to get from your head to your heart. And it can't be just something that's stirring around in your head, some abstract thing where, well, I know God's in control. I know that he loves me. All that stuff. No, it's got to get in here. And that happens by faith.
Yeah. Let me ask you, again, this is the benefit of being here for the last service.
Yeah.
Is there a moment when the act of faith is saying, God, I don't even have the faith to believe right now?
Yeah.
Like I can't even muster up the belief. So would you, in a sense, have faith for me? Would you, like, help me even like in my unbelief, in my brokenness? I can't even lift my eyes to look to you. Is that an act of, even that's an act of beginning of faith? Absolutely, I believe so. It's you coming to the end of yourself and saying, I no longer can trust in the things of this world. I can't do that anymore. I need you. I don't even know how to trust you. I'm trying, Thomas said, I believe, but help my unbelief, and just throwing yourself at the foot of the cross and in desperation. Yeah. So there's a place, and I've seen it in you, and I've sensed it from people today. There's a place where we're helpless. Yeah. You go, man, I've tried everything. I've worked every plan. I've worked the system. And I can't do it anymore. Sometimes it's like I've tried to hold the world up on my shoulders. I can't hold it. It's too heavy. And in our worst moment, Jesus intervenes on our behalf. I guess that's why I'd like to end today. It's been a very inspiring day for me personally, beginning with Amanda's story. Just saying, here's my life. Here's where I'm learning to trust. I'm learning to trust God, as hard as it is. And here's Darren, very, very dramatic story that some of you share. Mm-hmm. And Jesus Christ is setting him free and working in his life in beautiful ways. This last story, as we finish up, is the story of a guy named Nick, who this year faced the worst that you can face. What he went through couldn't be worse. But in it, he's a model of what it looks like to seek the kingdom and cast your cares on Jesus, knowing that he cares for you. So hold on to your card and take a look at this.
Mom, do you want to say how much you love Austin?
I love you so much.
Is she your little angel? You're my sweet, sweet girl, Austin. I love you so much. See you again soon.
All right. What word would you use to describe how you feel right now?
One word?
Yeah.
Blessed. This is my little love, my little bug. Hi, my name is Nick Magnotti. I'm 27 years old. I have stage 4 appendix cancer, and this is my 7-month-old daughter, Austin. My wife and I had her together. I've been married to Elisa for 5 years now. I was first diagnosed with cancer. I was 24 years old, and I was scared. I was at first. I remember when I got the phone call. I'd just woken up. I think it was like 8 in the morning. I was still recovering from the surgery of when they had removed the cancer. And Elisa was in the kitchen, and I was in the living room, and I answered the phone, and it's my surgeon. He tells me that I have cancer, and man, talk about getting the wind knocked out of you. That was a hard phone call. Elisa and I sat down on the couch and we cried, and we decided that we were going to hit it head on. We were going to take this beast and make it our own. The chemo has gotten to a point where it's no longer doing what it's supposed to do. Even though it's continuing treatment, my pain was getting worse, so it's an indication that the cancer is spreading faster than the chemo can kill it. So we decided to stop chemotherapy just because chemo makes me feel so cruddy. We want to be able to enjoy every single day to its fullest, and when you feel so ill you can't get out of bed, it's kind of hard to do that. I'm not scared of death. You can say, being a Christian, that you shouldn't be scared of death because you know that you're going to a better place, but it's human nature. I want to be scared. And I think it's strange that I'm not scared. I don't know if it's strange. I know why I don't feel scared. I know it's because God has given me this peace. So I live every day with the appreciation for today and not concerned with what tomorrow will bring. We could have a meteor hit the world and everyone would die, and my cancer would be pointless because it wouldn't have been what took me out. And I was so concerned and focused on that, and then that happens, and that would just, to me, that's a waste. I feel blessed because I'm living every person's dream. I get to spend every day with the people that I love, and I get to do anything and everything that I want to do. I get to, if Lisa and I want to take our little baby Austin to the aquarium, we can go to the aquarium. The Lord has blessed us with the means and the ability to be able to do that. The relationship that's developed, the amount that I've gotten to know God, I just wish everyone could get to experience what I feel. I just feel so blessed to be able to be up in the middle of the night in pain and be able to talk to God and be inspired to, try and help people. And I just feel lucky that even though I'm experiencing this pain, that I'm getting the opportunity to change lives. In the Lord's name, I'm getting the opportunity to help people. I'm just talking to God about how I know that even if I'm not here, that He's her father and He's going to take care of her. He's going to protect her. And He's going to watch out for her. And He's going to provide for her. I would love to be a part of raising her every single year of her life, but every day the Lord gives me with her is just the biggest blessing, a bigger blessing than I deserve. Words can't describe how it feels to have her as my daughter and to be blessed with her. So I do worry, but that's just because I'm human. I know that Austin is going to be taken care of, and I know that the Lord has big plans for her. I know that she's going to accomplish some pretty impressive things in her life.
Smiles?
You got a proud daddy, Austin, already, so you're doing good.
it raised Nick's story. Part of it, as human beings, we feel angry at the brokenness of the world. I hate what sin has done to this world for millennia. There's so much brokenness and hurt and pain, and yet to hear his witness is remarkable. It's one of the most powerful witnesses I've ever heard. He is essentially saying, I'm taking, it's what you taught today, I'm taking the worst that life and death can bring, and I'm going to trust my Savior.
Yeah, and I think what's remarkable is just the courage that Nick goes into just this horrible, the worst that I can imagine, surrendering my children over to the me being gone, and it just, I see Jesus in Nick, really. I see, his ability in the worst situation to see the kingdom, to see God, to say that he's blessed and that he wishes everybody could feel what he's feeling. And it just makes me sit there and think to myself that, faith in Jesus Christ, faith in who Jesus is and what he's done. He never promised us that we would never struggle again. He never says that we're not going to be hurt and in pain, but he says that he died so that in our pain and in our struggle we can be conformed into him and be made more like him. And I just think about, like, maybe whatever that is that you're going through right now, I look back on my life and the things that I questioned God for so many years once I knew him. Like, why, God? Why? I understand, like, I needed to be taught things, but did it have to be so bad for so long and have to hurt so bad at certain times? And the only way I'm able to get through it is to think that, God, you're helping other people now through me because of what I went through. And maybe that's why you're going through what you are right now. That I believe that God can use all things for your good, and somebody else, maybe there's somebody else out there that needs you to overcome or fight through where you're at in order to meet them where they are, to teach them the gospel and who Jesus is, and that there will be a time where there is no more pain, there is no more suffering, and there is no more hurt, and there is no more sin, and there is no more brokenness, and every single thing that we could ever think of that is ever hurtful is suddenly untrue. And that's when we're finally with Jesus, whether that's here or wherever it is.
Or in the life to come. We're going to finish with this beautiful song. Man, I love this song. And it's a statement of faith that we belong, that in life or in death, we belong to the one who has control and who's good and powerful and compassionate. And I know you got a card with stuff on your worry. This is actually my card. It's my chicken scratching, and I wrote 12 things in 60 seconds that I'm worried about. I figured you did too. As you listen to this song, I want you to hold this card and ask yourself, are you willing to trust your Savior with this stuff? That He loves you, that your Heavenly Father cares for you, and that Jesus Christ has given Himself for you. As you think about that, as you just enjoy this song.
And I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. and you are mine. You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep, my faith will stand. And I will call upon your name, keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am Your grace abounds in deepest waters, oceans deep, my faith may fail and fear surrounds me. You never fail, and you won't start now. So I will call upon your name, keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am
For so much of my life, I have my worry list. I keep it right here, right in my back pocket. All the things. It's kind of that pocket symbolizes the fact that, man, I gotta take control of my life, and it's up to me. And I got all these things that are killing me and eating me up inside, and I've had, throughout my life, symptoms of stress, even as a follower of Jesus, where I'm trusting me and I'm not trusting him. And Jesus today, right now, is saying to me once again, he's like, Steve, you're going to need to do this over and over again, but I want you to take your worry list out of your pocket and give it to me. Because I'm good and I'm strong. And as Darren so beautifully shared, I accomplished it on the cross. So today, as we finish our service, I want to invite you, take the next maybe 60 seconds and just think about it. And when you're ready, some of you can see a lot of people have done it this morning. Not everybody. Because some people are going to go, no, I think I'm going to. Some of you in this room, you're going to go, no, I'm going to keep it right here for now. Aren't you? It's going to chew you up. Because your Savior loves you. There's one person who really can make a difference, even if it's the worst of the worst. He can be trusted with our lives. So I'm leaving mine here, and I'll have to do it again tonight and tomorrow and the next day. But when you're ready, kind of before you head out, and some of you are going to go sign up at Darren's table out there. Darren and Amanda Bray both are going to be here to pray with people. They've been praying with people all day. It's been beautiful. People that are carrying these burdens of anxiety. And if you're ready to let it go, let this be a symbol where you put it on this darn stage and say, darn it, I want to trust you, Lord. I want to quit carrying the burden myself. I want to know, I want to believe. Even in my unbelief, help me believe that you're good and powerful and strong, and I can trust you. You'll feed me and clothe me and care for me. And when my time comes to meet you face to face, you'll carry me safely into your arms.